We went live.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 85 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Knittel. I am here with my brother Christian. Matt is driving across the country right now, and we are joined by Critty Smith. Critty, say hello so everybody can see what you look like.
Hello, everyone. How's it going?
There you are. There's Critty. We are excited that he is joining us this week. Christian, say hello.
Hello.
There you are. That's what Christian looks like. And people of YouTube, we appreciate you tuning in. If
you guys can say hello too.
Yeah, say hello, please. Interact with us. I have the chat feature up here. So we're going to be going through, as we always do, a bunch of different topics. I am turning my phone off so we don't have any more vibrates because that scared me for a second. But please interact with us as we go along here. Love to hear your thoughts on everything we talk about. And I think we're ready to get right into things. We don't have any technical difficulties this week, which is exciting. And yeah, we'll see.
It's still early.
Yeah, well, actually, yeah, I probably just jinxed us. So we'll see how this goes. But I think we're ready to jump right into things.
Yeah, the power's been going off at the house, apparently, pretty frequently. So we'll see.
Okay. Well, all right. We'll cross our fingers and hope everything goes okay. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 85 of the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Knittel. I am joined by my brother Christian. Matthew is off driving across the country right now, but we are joined also by Critty Smith. Critty, how you doing today?
Doing fantastic, my friend.
Can you tell us, I know you're involved in a lot of different soccer projects. Can you tell us what you're working on?
Mainly right now, I'm writing for fansided.com. I work on their Serie A, Bundesliga, and Premier League. I would say forums, mainly on my three clubs, Inter Milan, Dortmund, and Liverpool. Just put out three articles in the last 10 days on Versalco, Sturridge, still belonging at Liverpool, which he showed and displayed again today. And the Axel Witsel transfer to Dortmund. So I'm also a writer for BBB Buzz. And I work very closely with the Fields of Anfield Road, which is another podcast. And I'm a host of my own podcast, Kings of Europe. So, yeah, I've got my hand in a lot of different things. One of my favorite things that I'm working on right now this summer, though, is an Inter Legend series. So that's Inter Milan, where I'm collaborating with Nima, who's the founder and I guess you could say proprietor of SempreInter.com. And he and I have come together and decided that I would write a host of legends to articles going back to Lothar Matthäus, Jürgen Klinsmann's the next one up. We've already covered Andreas Prem, Walter Zenga. So just we're going to be doing about probably 15 or 20 of those, depending on how far we want to go with it. But so far we've gotten 5, and it's gotten a lot of good response. I love writing about the historical aspect of that club. So that's what I'm working on right now.
Awesome. And we will make sure to at least link to your maybe Twitter where people can find most of the stuff. Is that the best spot?
They can always find it on Twitter. Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. We will have that link. Christian, how are you doing today?
You could just make an essay with all those different links.
Yeah, I know.
You really feel like.
It's impressive.
Just a big bibliography.
Yeah.
I'm doing great, Dave. You know, just what a start to the Premier League this has been. I'm pretty sure that we being Liverpool look like the best team at the moment. So I'm feeling good.
Okay, well, let's pump the brakes. It's 1 week, but yes, I'm very excited as well. I'm doing well. I was up early for the Liverpool game. Really enjoyed that 4-0 victory. Just got done a run. And so, yeah, ready to get on with the day and ready to do this podcast. Christian, do you have a trivia question for us this week?
I do have a trivia question. My trivia question this week is about, of course, the Premier League opening weekend, because what else would it be about? It is, which team has lost the most openers in the Premier League era?
Okay, interesting question. We will think on that, give our guesses at the end. Listeners, play along as well. Give your guesses at the end, and Christian will then reveal the answer. So, yeah, we'll be doing some critical thinking here as we go along. Before we get to the topics this week, wanted to give a quick plug for our partner, StadiumScene.tv. So Stadium Scene is a travel blog you want to go and check out if you're going to any stadium in the U.S. They have recommendations on where to park, how to get to the stadium, what bars and restaurants to check out before and after. In addition to that, they partner with content creators like us at Bros Talking Soccer. If you're a Spurs fan, check out Tottenham Hotspur World. We've had Will on before. He writes all kinds of awesome stuff. Lads podcast is on there. They have a lot of good stuff. So please go check them out. And obviously our stuff is on there. Blogs, podcasts, YouTube videos, all that. Again, stadiumscene.tv. Christian, I'm going to pass it over to you for Christian's Corner now and let you take the reins here.
All right. Welcome to Christian's Corner, everybody. I hope everybody's excited. This is the third installment, so it's just going to build and build and become something special. And I might have to split off just like JT or Beyonce someday and just become the star myself, but we'll see. All right. So I'm going to start off with Bielsa taking over at Leeds here. He's a very interesting manager. He's been manager of a couple big clubs. Athletic Marseille. He's Athletic Bilbao for those. I guess I should clarify in La Liga and Marseille, Olympique Marseille in France, and he also was the coach of Argentina, I believe, for a period of time. I don't know if that's correct, right?
I know he's Argentinian background.
I think he was a coach at one point for a short period of time, not for a long time. He's a very interesting type of manager, and I really rate him highly, and I know he's been linked to that Barcelona job a couple of years ago. He never got it, and now he's at a team that's very, very different than Barcelona. He's in the championship with Leeds, a team that's really been struggling to build itself back up and been hovering around mid-table in the championship for what feels like ever now. He's a very talented manager, and he has some unique things that he's doing right now. Specifically, one I wanted to highlight was he made his first team players go around the training ground and clean up and like pick up trash because he wanted them to feel like the fans and really know what they're going through so that they could relate. It was really an interesting tactic to use, and I don't know if tactic is the word, but it is a work. It works. What do you guys think about that? I'll start with you, Dave. You can go first.
Okay. So so to get a little bit more specific, I think he calculated that the average, I guess, fan has to work 3 hours to afford a ticket at Leeds. And so that was kind of the logic behind them picking up trash. And so, I mean, I really like him. He's got a very interesting kind of personality. He clashes a lot with front offices. I think at Lazio, he was appointed last year and was there for something like 2 days or something like that, if I'm remembering correctly. So he's always kind of in conflict, and that may have been why. I don't know how well he would do at Barcelona with a lot of the inner politicking that kind of goes on there. But I mean, I think he's doing it. Yeah, he's doing an interesting thing. Fancy words here. He's doing an interesting thing. The other thing that he's doing is he's trying to learn English. And so in his press conferences or his interviews, he's got a translator standing right next to him who's translating in real time and then telling him how to say it in English. And so, I don't know, I find it interesting what he's trying to do. If you haven't seen that, I think we tweeted it from the Bros Talking Soccer Twitter handle, so definitely go check that out. But, I think he's one of the brightest kind of minds in soccer, and it's interesting to have him in the championship. So I'm a big fan.
All right, Critty, take it away. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so actually he did he did manage Argentina from 98 to 2004. So he was part of the 98 would have been the World Cup in France, and I guess he was also 2002, that legendary matchup against England in was it South Korea, Japan. So yeah, no, I think Leeds United is one of those clubs. They remind me not so much in the same prestige as Nottingham Forest, because Nottingham Forest has won some European Cups, but Leeds is, if you go back to the turn of the century, they were a Champions League side. They shot up to fame very quickly and came crashing back down almost as quickly due to the financial misfortunes of the club, and they've never really recovered since. They had some a brutal relegation campaign, and they've just never seen the light of day. I keep my eye on them because of when I'm looking at the championship standings, and I know that I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the year before last, I think they were in contention or almost narrowly missed out on the playoff. There's a lot of times when people talk about a certain league is better off if a certain team is there. So, for instance, a lot of people say, Serie A is better off if Parma is in Serie A, for example, just because of the tradition. Well, Leeds is one of those teams I feel like that, people would gladly trade out in some circumstances for like a Brighton or Huddersfield. So I think they've selected quite the unique character to be manager. As far as them getting the players to collect to pick up the trash, I mean, that's not anything to say that's very unorthodox, but it does it not give them a sense of appreciation, perhaps, and a little bit more maybe team unity. It could be like a team building, exercise. I've never heard of any other manager doing that. So kudos to him for being a pioneer, a trendsetter.
Yeah, I think it's more than just a team building. I think it's almost like a united club building. They want you to feel what the fans are going through, and like that's what Dave was kind of going into. They have to work 3 hours a day to get enough money to buy a ticket to a game anyway. So it's just really unique, and I really kind of applaud him for what he's doing there.
Yeah, and just one more thing to tack on to what Critty was saying. I think a lot of fans and teams dislike Leeds United and consider them to be a big rival. And whereas, I don't think, I know Palace and Brighton don't get along, but there isn't necessarily like that same sort of prestige. And so if Leeds was back in the Prem, I think that would be fantastic. So that'd be really good.
Yeah, and especially with a manager like that, you don't know what they could do. I mean, they could, but you just don't know. So I guess we wrap that one up. Unless Dave, you have anything else you want to add on this one? Critty, anything else?
Well, it's about your Lazio thing. He was there for a cup of coffee, and then after that, he went straight into Lille. So the guy, has. It would be interesting on what Dave just said if they did come back up, because with a manager like him, he has a lot of experience, and it would be really, really fun ride, I think, to take to see what he could actually do with them if he was in the top tier.
And they're off to a flying start. I mean, two victories in 2 matches. So,
yep.
Yeah, they're in second place right now, and only because Middlesbrough has played an extra game. So they do look good already, but it's, again, very early, as we mentioned with Liverpool. So everybody pump the brakes, like Dave said. So moving on to the next topic here, I wanted to touch on Pochettino saying, or I guess hinting at the fact that Brexit was involved in their lack of transfer activity. So at first I read this just article title, and I guess I don't even know what to call it. Title works, right?
Yeah, that's the correct word.
That's all right. All right. I guess that works. I thought he was joking, and I thought it was going to be one of those where like they just pick up something he said and it was really sarcastic, but he actually meant that. He said that the cost of the stadium and the cost of the players pretty much went up like 30%. He was estimating. He's not an economist, so I don't really read into those numbers too much. But it probably did have some impact. But could you excuse them for this? I know that they're building their stadium, so they have a lot of money invested in their infrastructure there. But this still, to me, doesn't excuse their lack of activity. What do you think, Critty? I'll start with you this time.
I don't think it excuses it at all, because if you look at the top 6 race last season, they barely kept Liverpool and Chelsea at bay. I mean, basically, you could swap Tottenham out for Liverpool 3 and 4. So that being said, Chelsea was right behind both of them. If you're in a race like that, especially with one of your London rivals in Chelsea, and Arsenal's never too far behind. They may not be the team that they once were, but they're not going to completely fall off. For every other team around you to make significant moves and for you to do nothing, that doesn't speak volumes for a 38-match season. Now, their win this week, Newcastle, that's fine. You can beat Newcastle 2-1 on the road. Luckily for them, they had Ali scored, and they didn't have to depend on Kane. But as the season goes on and you're playing in 4 competitions, I just think that squad depth's going to play an issue at some point.
Yeah, Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in agreement there. It certainly doesn't excuse it. I think you can kind of understand to a certain extent that this is what they've been building towards. I mean, they've said that they have been, investing kind of smaller amounts, trying to build through their academy and retain the players that they have while they've been building the stadium. Now, I thought with the stadium now complete and them launching it within the next month or so, I thought they would have maybe had a couple more investments, really kind of tried to go more all in, try to take that next step. And I think this kind of is a signal that they're not ready to take that next step. And so I would be disappointed if I was a Spurs fan.
Yeah, I just don't think that they have the depth now to compete with the other teams. I still have them right on that edge. I still think that they're going to be better than Arsenal this year, but they really need to move forward. Right now, they're really struggling to have any cover for Kane, and I keep harping on this in the podcast, But if he goes down, they are screwed. Like, they don't have any other weapon in that position that could come in and fill in. And I know he's one of the top strikers in the league, so it's hard to replace, but they have nothing. They really have no one who can come in and play that position, which is just mind-boggling to me for a team that's really been where they have been for the last couple of years, been bringing in that Champions League money, been bringing in Premier League money. It's just crazy to me that they're unable to compete. I don't even know if it's that you can't compete financially, because I feel like they can at this point. They might not have the same ownership capabilities, but they still are bringing in that incredible amount of revenue, and they kind of are building themselves into a big club now, which you probably could say that they are. And they're still not spending. And I know Arsenal went through this for a while as well, but Arsenal were still bringing players in. Tottenham literally signed 0 players, and we're the first top 5 club to ever do that, which is just ridiculous. Any other comments?
Yeah, my question would be, what is their agenda? What is Tottenham Hotspur's agenda? Because if you look 2 years ago, if you go back even further than that, I believe 15-16 when Leicester won the Premier League, Tottenham finished second. If you go to 16-17, they absolutely did not try at all in the Champions League. They didn't have the hardest group. They got knocked out in 3rd place. They went to the Europa League, were immediately knocked out shortly thereafter. Last season, they win the group with Borussia Dortmund and Real Madrid. They absolutely took that seriously. They went into the Champions League, round of 16. They had Juventus on the ropes. They were obviously trying to go deep into that competition and still managed a top 3 finish. If you have a round of 16 team that's almost knocking off Juventus, you have group winners from, I think, what was the group of death in the Champions League last season, Dortmund and Real Madrid, and you have a top 3 Premier League side. To not reinforce that, to not spend the money you made there, whether you're opening up a new stadium or not, academy players are not going to sustain your growth in the short term, maybe long term. But I would just love to know from Spurs fans, what do you want from this club, and what is their agenda? Because it doesn't, the way they've operated over the last 3 years seems inconsistent.
Yeah, it's gonna be really telling to see what they do in the wintertime, and if they sort of decide to reinforce then, and then obviously next summer. Now, they did bring in Lucas in the winter transfer window last year, and he wasn't really embedded, during the springtime. It's really tough to bring in players in the winter. As I just said, we'll see what happens when they bring players in the winter. But I guess they're trying to say he might be kind of like a new signing. But beyond that, I mean, it's going to be really telling to see what they do this wintertime, and if they're able to continue to hold all these players, because I just feel like they're going to really struggle next summer to hang on to, whether it's Eriksen, Kane, even Dele Alli. I mean, a lot of them, I could see them leaving next summer, depending on how this season goes. So
exactly, and because they don't have that depth, or they have good players that, like, in every position. I think their starting lineup is very competitive in any Premier League team. But once you look down that roster a little bit, it's the same way that I kind of saw Liverpool last year. You see that bench, and you're just like, okay, they're really dropping off. And then you look at Spurs, even in the center midfield, that's where I think that they're weakest, is the holding mid type of position. They don't have somebody there who's just like a dominant midfielder. I know Dembele is very, very talented. I really like the way he plays.
And if Wanyama can stay healthy.
Wanyama just can't, though. Then that's an issue. It's, we could touch on Sturridge into that if we want to, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
These types of players are just, they're very, very talented. And Eric Dyer is another one, but they're just not like dominant, going to win you a title type of players. And I think they're still missing that, and they're not investing in the right areas, in my opinion. I still think they need wingers as well, and their defenders are getting old now. They're very, very good. But yeah, that's kind of where I wanted to go on this topic. If you guys have anything else to add, Critty?
No, good.
Nope. All right, Dave?
Good.
All right. Here's my final topic in Christian's Corner. Lionel Messi. What a player he is, huh? He was just promoted to captain of Barcelona this year. This is probably going to be a pretty short topic here, but I know he doesn't have the best track record of being a leader, and people kind of question his qualities in that department. Do you think this was the right move for Barcelona to make him the captain of the team, Dave?
Who else is going to be the captain? I mean, yes, I think it makes sense to make him the captain. I mean, he's a lifelong player of theirs. Whether he demonstrates the quote unquote leadership qualities or whatnot. I mean, Iniesta didn't necessarily demonstrate the leadership qualities that you think of when you think of like a boisterous kind of player who gets in people's faces or, just galvanizes the team. I mean, he can lead by example.
He's no Stevie G, whatever.
Yes, very true. No, but even like thinking back to like Puyol, who would have been like the major captain before, or even
they haven't had a captain like Puyol since.
Well, so, I understand, but I think I think it makes sense. He's the most talented player. He's one of the greatest players ever, and yes, it makes sense to make him captain. I don't know who else you would make captain.
You meant the greatest?
Yes,
is that what you meant to say there? Critty, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with that. Who else do you have? Who else do you have there? I mean, you've got Dembele. He's tenured, he's seniored, he's obviously skill-wise the best player on the team, so there's no arguing that. He's well into his 30s now, so I mean, he's at that point in time. You would think that you have the maturity and the, I guess you would say, experience in that situation to where you can put a team on your back, or you're the guy who can go, get in the huddle with if there's a scuffle or something like that. You see Jordan Henderson do this a lot. You saw him do it even not in the captaincy role with England in the World Cup. I mean, he's right there. He just can't get that. Some people are born to do that and some people aren't. And you look at Henderson, for example, he's born to, go stick up for his guys and, talk the ref down from, making a heinous decision. I just don't see Messi. Just seems to me like a guy who just wants to play football. He wants to play soccer. He doesn't want to be the focal point of like the controversial decisions, or have this or that on his mind as far as like what do I say, or what impact can I have on this decision when if it's an important one, so to speak. I don't know. It's weird, especially with the World Cup stuff, especially after 2014. What was it? After the Copa America, he retired from international play, like on a dime.
Yeah.
And then he came back, and but I don't know who else you would nominate for that. So I think it was kind of like kind of by default, he just slotted in.
Yeah, and I think that they should try to find players that, even if they're not going to be captain, do exactly what you were saying, Critty. Have players out there that are going to be more vocal and are going to show leadership qualities, whether they have the armband or not. Henderson was immediately who I was kind of thinking of when I was talking about kind of the behavior of captains earlier. So if Barca is going to make Messi captain, they need to find somebody who's vocal and more, even like thinking back to like Mascherano, who was never a captain for Barca, but he demonstrated kind of those qualities. They need to find a player like that. And, I don't know how much longer PK is going to be there, but I mean, I think he probably is serving that role right now, and they need to find someone else like that.
Yeah, I was thinking PK and Busquets are the only two other people who actually could have stepped in there. But
Busquets isn't really vocal either, right? I don't. Does he demonstrate?
But it seemed like Messi during the World Cup kind of upped his game in that department. He was talking to people. You saw when they were walking out of the tunnel at halftime a bunch of times. He would like bring everybody together, and he'd be the one talking and kind of would be a little bit more demonstrative. But yeah, he's very, very quiet, kind of just stays out of the business, especially on the field. Like when the referee like makes a decision, every once in a while he'll walk over and he'll just like look at him like confused and bewilderment. But he never really like starts yelling or like gets up and starts defending. But his players or like starts pushing or anything. He kind of just wants to play the game. But sometimes you need leaders who are just going to play by example too. So there's different kinds of leaders out there, and I think this is probably the right decision, but it's a little bit, I don't know, just it's a topic to discuss.
Yes, it is.
All right. Anything else you wanted to mention on this topic?
I'm good.
Yeah. All right. So I'm going to pass off the baton here. We're going to go to a little bit of musical break, and Critty's going to take us away when we come back. Enjoy the sounds.
All right. Good stuff. Awesome. Yep. Right around 19 minutes. So a little bit long, but not too bad.
Shut your face.
Yeah. But that was good. That was a great discussion.
Oh man, I got two leagues to preview. I mean, I'm gonna try.
We'll run through it. I mean, if we go a little long, I mean, that's fine.
It's fine. They always go long.
Yeah. That's why I say 15 minutes, because I know we're going to end up in the 20 to 25
Yeah,
minute range.
I swear I try to keep Kings of Europe at like an hour and 15 every week, and it goes an hour and 35. There's no way around it. You start talking and it just avalanches down.
Well, yeah,
sounds like Dave.
Yeah, there's so many things to talk about. I mean, that's why we love soccer, right? There's so much to talk about, and so that's why we love it.
It's just fun. It's just fun.
Yes. All right. Cool. Any questions? Are we good to roll back?
Ready?
All right. Do you want to welcome everyone back, Critty? You go with that, or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead. You do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back, everyone, from the break. We hope you enjoyed it. I know we did. I'm going to pass it off to Critty now for his section. Critty, over to you.
All right. Go doing a little bit of a Serie A Bundesliga preview. And so we'll start off with those two first. So Serie A is going to start back here. And we have that league was the most competitive league in all of Europe last season. Obviously came down to Napoli and Juventus, basically down to the wire. So this season, Maurizio Sarri's left Napoli. Carlo Ancelotti's come in. Jorginho left with Sarri, so he's now at Chelsea. Napoli is a team to watch out for in the fact of they now have a manager who is primarily interested in cup fixtures. So I would look for them to take a step back in the league and possibly advance further in the Champions League than they did last year. Juventus obviously has the biggest transfer of the year with he's a guy he plays for Portugal. That's all I know. It's all I can say is he plays for Portugal. And obviously the welcoming back of Leonardo Bonucci after one season, tail tucked between his legs at AC Milan, comes back to the Bianconeri. So Juventus, another team to look forward to. But the team that really did the most in the transfer market, and they're still active as of today, looks like they're going to be in for Keita Balde from Monaco. They've signed everybody under the moon. They've signed Brasalco. They've signed Raja Nangolan. They've signed Asamoah. They have basically added to – they haven't overhauled anything. They've lost very few key players from last year's squad, and they've added to already what was a Champions League caliber roster, and they have done so in stunning fashion. I think that most people would say Inter Milan may have, in fact, in Europe, won the transfer window. If you want to go on paper by saying
debatable,
can win the transfer window. So they're going to be a team to look out for. They're going to be fighting three fronts: Coppa Italia, Serie A, and of course the Champions League. First time in 6 years, Inter back in the Champions League. They also have a very capable manager, Luciano Spalletti, to guide them through this season. I know that they are basically a lot of fans a couple of years ago were excited by the fact of Diego Simeone returning back to Inter to manage the team, a place where he spent some of his playing career and has a very he holds the club in high esteem, has a lot of love for him. So Spalletti, the more he wins, the longer he will stay there. I think that Suning, the owners of Inter, have given them all the financial help they want. They've rebranded the club. They brought them, so to speak, in the 21st century. This is a club that in 2010 won the treble, the continental treble, Champions League, Domestic Cup, and League, and they just always operated like they were a second-rate club. So two more teams to look out for.
Well,
obviously,
before we move on, I just want to say, because we talked about this last week, Inter, and where we kind of, because we're not experts in it, and you're obviously a fan and much more involved, and where we kind of came down was we think they're still maybe a year or two away from really pushing for the title, and that was kind of our somewhat informed but still not as informed opinion as you. Do you think they can actually push for the title this season?
I think that they will take Juve into the last 6 weeks. Yes. I think that there will be let me put it like this. Inter will be within striking distance with 6 match days to go. So we'll go match day 32. It'll be 5 points or less that Juve will be ahead.
What?
But
5 points or less. And the reason is this. I believe and this is one of the reasons why. Juventus has themselves, their fan base has decided that if they don't win the Champions League this year, this season is a failure. I've heard that on more than 10 or 15 occasions.
I mean, it seems like every big club feels that way.
But you got to set your expectations to a certain degree that only one club can win that. And no club has won it in 4 years other than Real Madrid. So if you're Juventus, if you're banking on the fact, and let's be honest, there is no more thrill left for Juventus in winning the Serie A. It's almost something that they would gladly give up if they could win the Champions League. And sometimes you can't win both. You have to decide, like Napoli last season, either we're going to win the Scudetto or we're going to decide we're going to go deep in the Champions League. They didn't have the squad. Very few teams have the squad to do both. So I think that Juventus, having won 7 in a row, the thrill is not there. The hunger is not there. If Inter decide that they are going to compete for the Scudetto this season and say, we're going to, whatever we do in Champions League is whatever we do. If we finish 3rd in the group and get relegated to Europa League, that's fine. If we get knocked out altogether, that's fine. But our focus is going to be on becoming Italian champions for the first time since 2009, 2010. They have the squad to do it. That's if Juventus decides to basically put their entire focus behind the Champions League, and they have finally lost the hunger to win in the domestic competition. So that's an interesting scenario. A lot of things can play out with that, and it's going to be interesting. Most people have Juve 1, Inter 2 this season. That's based on a roster that we look at on paper. So that's why we play the games on the pitch, and things kind of work themselves out. But I think that the other team that looks like they're in the top 4 conversation is AC Milan, despite all the financial harem scarum. They spent $200 million last year, end up finishing in 6th place. They sack their manager midway through the season, bring in one of the most, let's say, their fireball player, Gattuso, who was known for a couple of altercations on the pitch during his time with the Rossoneri. But in doing that, they found themselves kind of a great motivator, and it brought the team back into fighting distance of a Champions League spot, only to fall off late. But they did get to the Coppa Italia final, lost to Juventus 4-0 in that matchup. But hey, getting there is half the battle. You got to get there, and they've done that. I think that they have spent a little bit more. They've been wiser with their money this offseason. And I do think that they're going to come together, and they're going to contend for a top 4 spot this year. Ahead of the team that I feel like is going to fall off the most is Roma, after losing Salah 2 years ago and Alisson this past offseason. The back line now no longer has Alisson to clean up the mess that they make. So that's going to be something to watch out for. It is their kryptonite. Their back 4 is very, very shaky. So I think Roma has the most. Edin Dzeko's not getting any younger. So it's a team to look out for as far as their 3rd place finish last year. I think they could fall back into 5 and join their friends Lazio, who will also be in the top 6, but probably the last of the top 6. The surprise team this year in Serie A to look out for, I believe, could be Fiorentina, because they've added a couple of good pieces, and they have a solid manager in Stefan Pioli, who can. He's not a very good big club manager, but if you give him some kind of a middle table team like Fiorentina is, he did it with Lazio a couple of years ago. He can get you into that 4th, 5th, 6th place. That's part of the table, and I think for Fiorentina fans, they would be completely happy with that. So I'd be looking out for them. They don't have to play in. They have to play in 1 domestic competition, and of course their League Cup. So they're not their League Cup, their National Cup. So they were going to play in Europe, but AC Milan got into the Europa League, got kicked out of the Europa League, and then were reinstated in the Europa League. So that's typical Italian football right there for you. For those who don't follow it, there's always some harem scarum crap that goes on with Italian football. In fact, we don't even know as of this past week who the 20 teams are going to be, because Chievo Verona is fighting they're actually fighting right now to stay up in the Serie A after the scandal they went through. Crotone could come from Serie B back up into Serie A.
Wait, what?
So,
what?
Yeah, I didn't hear this at all.
Yes, Chievo Verona is currently fighting to stay up because there was a little bit of a scandal that they got caught up in. And it was, I don't know if you guys know, but Parma was going to be docked 5 points to start the season. They appealed that. It got overturned, and they are now back at level. Well, Verona is actually being looked at to be relegated. Here we are days before the season starts, and there's been no decision made on that as of right now. As last time I looked, I think. And Crotone, that would mean Crotone would come back up from Serie B into Serie A. So literally, Cristiano Ronaldo is supposed to play his first match at Chievo Verona next weekend, and they have still an outstanding issue of whether they're actually going to be in the top flight or not.
How can it get to this point?
That's Italian football. I don't know how else to say it. They are, I don't know what to say. It's kind of goes with the the Italian lifestyle. We kick back, we drink a little wine, we eat a little cheese. That's how it is. So no rush, right? Days before the season, we'll figure it out before Saturday. So that's Italy. I do want to move on to the Bundesliga real quick. They're also kicking off this coming weekend, and obviously the biggest matchup of that league is going to be RB Leipzig against Dortmund. That's kind of the I would say both of them are in the running for top 4 spot this season. Bundesliga is interesting because Bayern have a new manager. Niko Kovac comes over from Eintracht Frankfurt. He beat Bayern in the DFB Pokal final last season, 3-1 behind Ante Rebic, who scored a brace, and that obviously went on to the World Cup to do great things with Croatia. It's going to be interesting to see after Jupp Heynckes and Carlo Ancelotti where Bayern goes with Niko Kovac, because it seems like they don't have the most patience when it comes to not being in first place after, say, the 5th or 6th match day. This squad hasn't added a lot this season. They're very much like Spurs in the fact that they have, Vidal has gone to Barcelona. That's their midfield enforcer. Boateng was on the way out as of last week. He did reject a deal to go to Manchester United. He's still in the talks to go to PSG. So Boateng is possibly another loss. Lewandowski has been rumored for 2 years now to be on his way to Real Madrid. Makes sense since they lost Cristiano Ronaldo for Lewandowski to go there, plug in him at the number 9 spot. So Bayern is going to be a very interesting beast this year. I think they still have enough talent to win the league, and I think it's going to take still another season or two for perhaps Dortmund or somebody to catch up with them. But I don't think you're going to see the dominance. I don't think you're going to see 88-point season total outputs. I don't think you're going to see – I think 76 or 77 points could win the league this year for Bayern.
What
we got to remember they only play 34 match days. Mm-hmm. They don't play the 38. So Dortmund added a lot this offseason, starting with Marius Wolf. They got Axel Witsel most recently. They also added they added basically a lot of depth in midfield. Thomas Delaney added a new goalkeeper, Marvin Hitz, to challenge Roman Bürki. They are going to be an interesting bunch because they haven't added a center forward, and that's what a lot of people said they needed the most was a center forward. It looks like right now they're going to go with a 4-3-3, perhaps with Royce and my wingers, Royce, Pulisic, and Maxi Philipp up front would be your 3. They don't really have a lot behind that though, so they are rumored to be still looking for a number 9. But as of right now, they don't have it. They're going to go into the season with basically a front 3 that if any one of those 3 gets injured, they could be in deep trouble as far as goal scoring goes. Other team to keep out for is Schalke. Schalke was the surprise team of last season. Very ugly wins. They won a lot of games 2-1. They won a lot of games 1-0. Grinders, defensive-minded, but they get the job done. Efficiency is Schalke's key. And I think they'll have another top 4 finish. I really think I like what Domenico Tedesco's done. He just resigned. He signed an extension this weekend to remain at Schalke, I think, through 2022 or 2023. So it shows that they believe in him. Schalke is known as a chaos club. They're very reactionary. They jump to they kind of jump the gun a lot of times on decisions when they should probably let it play out. But Christian Heidel's come over from Mainz, and in the 2 years he's been there, he has stabilized things, and it's looking like they have a bright future at Schalke. So a lot to look out for in the Bundesliga as well. But those 3 teams in particular are those that I would look out for.
Yeah, question for you, and I'm getting an echo here. Critty, can you mute for a sec?
Yeah. Okay. Good.
All right. No, I can still hear you.
I'm echoing?
No, I'm echoing when I talk.
You're echoing.
No. Okay, I think we're good
It's
now.
gone now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever you did, that worked great. Sorry about that. We had a question. I was going to ask it too, but question from Playmakers here on YouTube. How do you think the Hoffenheim-Leipzig situation with Nagelsmann already agreeing to take over next season is going to play out? We saw this last year with with Frankfurt manager taking over at Bayern, but finishing out the season. I find this so interesting. You don't really see this in other leagues, but it seems to happen. It's happened multiple times in the Bundesliga. So how do you expect that all to play out?
So the difference in the two situations was that Niko Kovac had about 2 months left in the season when he agreed to the Bayern job. The Bayern job was basically a very cutthroat way of doing business by Bayern at the very end of the season when Frankfurt was still in contention for European spots. So that hurt them significantly. This is different in the situation that he's going to have a full season to play with Hoffenheim, where he knows that at the end of the year, no matter how he finishes, he will be departing for RB Leipzig. However, Nagelsmann has quite, in my time that I've seen him manage, he's a guy that's quite confident. He has an ego. He is one of the most, I would say, he's got to be under the top 3 or 5 managers in Europe as far as young managers that the continent offers right now as far as up-and-comers. And I think RB Leipzig is the next step in his evolution to probably going to one of the major English clubs or German clubs. So that meaning Dortmund or Bayern eventually. Or, he could go to somewhere like a Barcelona or Juventus, because he's got that potential. I really do believe so. He is going to do his best job with Hoffenheim. He's not going to mail it in. That can only hurt him, and he's too proud to do that. So he is going to do the best with what he has. They're going to be in a tough situation, though, as they are fighting for Champions League survival, domestic cup survival, and Bundesliga. That's a tall order to ask of a team that, in my opinion, not that they don't have squad depth, they do, but it's the quality and the caliber of player that they have on that roster. If you're comparing them to, let's say they finished 3rd, so they're going to be they could get a pretty tough draw in the Champions League. And if you look at that, if they get into a group, say with Real Madrid or Man City, it might just be better just to enjoy the experience, enjoy the ride, and try to get to 3rd place, maybe bounce down to the Europa League. It's not going to be easy. And if they get back in the top 4, I would be highly surprised, given the fact of what the other teams around them added to their rosters. But Nagelsmann is going to compete. He's going to do his absolute best to the very last match day. I would not expect any drop-off from him as a manager. If it's anything, it's just going to be the fact that at the end of they may just run out of gas.
All right. Cool. Did we want to talk about the Premier League opening weekend now?
Yeah, let's do it. So you guys, we all watched Liverpool today dismantle West Ham, and let's talk about that game first and foremost. What did you guys think about that match?
Christian?
It was weird. It looked like there were 11 people in red walking around, and there was no one else out there. It was really bizarre. It was really, really, really good. I've never actually seen us be that dominant, and it's insane. The thing I wanted to highlight, actually, and I don't think he played particularly well towards the end of the second half, but I thought Wijnaldum was absolutely outstanding in the midfield. I thought he played incredible. I think Trent Alexander-Arnold didn't have a great game at the back, and I really liked the partnership between Van Dijk and Gomez.
Yes.
I think Gomez is going to be the future in that position. He probably won't start there this year once everyone's healthy, but now there's all that drama with Lovren, so who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? Our front 3 obviously are always going to create, so there's no surprises there. There's nothing really to touch on there, but Milner just keeps churning out his hard work, resulting in that second goal. And Andrew Robertson might be my favorite player. Him and Firmino, I don't know which one, but he's just so incredible defensively and going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, you don't have too much. I don't have too much else to add. I mean, Van Dijk, I think whoever he plays next to, he just makes light years better. His signing, I can't sing high enough praises for. He's just fantastic. He just makes everybody better. And so he played amazing. West Ham was doing something so weird. I pointed this out on our text, Christian, where when Liverpool were swinging crosses, they were holding the 18 and they were just letting runners come in behind. And I just thought that was really dangerous way for them to play. Yeah, they called Liverpool offsides a couple of times, but I thought that was just a really weird, odd way for them to play. And I thought Liverpool looked great breaking down a team that was sitting kind of further back, because sometimes they've struggled with that in the past. And so for me, that was really encouraging to see.
Let me ask you guys this. Were you surprised on the first goal that was the Robertson to Salah goal? Did you see how basically Robertson's run down the left flank pulled the entire West Ham back line towards the left, which then left Salah, who's arguably the best player in the world right now, wide open in front of goal and just taps it in. Yeah. Just taps it in, uncontested. I mean, if you're West Ham, you've seen enough game film on this guy, right? You have got to be a little bit more disciplined than to let number 11 roam that freely, that close in front of goal.
Yeah, there was some sort of tactical instruction for them to hold some sort of line, because they were letting runners go all the time that they shouldn't have been. And so, yeah, you're spot on that. Yeah, they should have had a guy on him.
This segment has brought out some interesting comments, such as comparing Bayern to Tottenham and saying Salah is the best player in the world. Yeah, he's good, but I just can't ever.
Well, no, I think what Critty's trying to say is his run of form, you could argue, was one of the best of anyone in the world. You can make the argument. He's not saying, yeah, you can make the argument. It's not absolutely absurd. The Tottenham Bayern comparison, I get what he's trying to say again, but
that was from that Tottenham Bayern comparison is not. Bayern is a much more ambitious club. They have far more titles than Tottenham could ever dream to make. What I'm comparing them, I'm comparing them off season to off season, and Bayern have been unbelievably, uncharacteristically quiet this off season. That's not like them. Like they added. They go after these young guys like Renato Sanchez 2 years ago. Then last year they add Corentin Tolisso. So they've always added a key piece to their arsenal. 3 years ago it was Douglas Costa when they got him from Shakhtar Donetsk. They haven't done that this season. I have seen nothing this season except exits, which I think will hurt them, such as the Vidal exit. He's an asset. That guy is an absolute class midfield player. He's an enforcer. Inter were interested in him. He ended up going to Barca because I believe Nainggolan and Vidal are very much similar players. So it would kind of you got a number 6, you got a number 6. So Bayern just, unless they pull some strings here in the last couple of weeks, they're good enough with what they have to win the Bundesliga. That is not questioning it. But if they have aspirations with Niko Kovac, a new manager, to go far into Europe, this squad ain't going to get it done. And in that aspect, I'm talking about them being like Spurs, not historically, just this summer to one-to-one comparison.
Yeah. And to just tag on to that, I'm hearing rumors online, and I'm not really plugged into anything, but just reading, things that a lot of the big clubs were waiting for the English window to shut to start doing business. I'm hearing Real Madrid maybe trying to do things, so maybe that's what Bayern's strategy is, and they may have some things. So we'll be following that.
Yeah, but especially with a new manager, that's weird. But we're on the Premier League now, so we can.
Sorry.
Yeah. So what did you guys think about the rest of the league, real quick? I mean, let's talk about City and Arsenal first of all. As far as City, they looked. Arsenal had a couple chances in this one.
You want me to take it first?
Yeah.
All right. I only got to see the second half. I was at practice, but from what I saw, it was just City absolutely dominating the game. Yeah, Arsenal had a couple of chances, but City are just a class above them, and it's unfortunate for Arsenal that they had to start the season this way and then go to Stamford Bridge next week. So it's just a big slap in the face again. But I just don't really rate Arsenal very highly, and I'm sorry to say that, all you Arsenal fans who are tuning in. But City are clearly just a level above, and you guys might have another tough season ahead, especially under new management with a bunch of new players.
Yeah, I think we all predicted them to come 6th, although Matt may have predicted them to come higher. I know Christian, I predicted them to come 6th. Arsenal, that is. Yeah, I mean, Arsenal had chances. They had pockets of space that they could have potentially exploited, but they just looked to step off. I know Ozil had a chance or two that if he's maybe a bit more in form or something, he takes it a little bit better. But yeah, for the most part, City just looked the stronger side.
The one thing I was impressed with from Arsenal was I thought Lacazette actually played well. His touches looked to be sharp, but he had one chance that came to him towards the end of the game, but he blasted it over. It was a little bit behind him, but still, he was much better than we saw all last year.
So, funny thing, when we started talking last week about what topics we want to talk about, I really wanted to talk about Manchester United's toxic, cancerous environment. And they opened the season with two players who Mourinho has hammered the hardest verbally over the past year, Luke Shaw and Pogba, scoring the goals. Especially Luke Shaw. I almost, as a Liverpool supporter, I should hate that a Manchester United player scored, but I almost feel good for him because he has just been completely and utterly thrown into the bus by Mourinho. And despite what the outcome was, and despite United getting the 3 points, how do we feel about this environment that Mourinho is this like a what is it, like a negative motivational force that he's trying to create here, where it's like the more I'm harder on you, the more you'll play? What do we think about the environment he's cultivated at Old Trafford?
Mourinho, anywhere he goes, is not sustainable. You can't have someone like that for long periods of time, and that's why you see his success pretty much immediate, and it wears off because he starts clashing with players, he starts clashing with the owners, he starts clashing with backroom staff. He is just a hard personality, and for as bright of a tactical mind as he is, he really, really struggles to get the best out of players because he's not great at man management, which is unfortunate for someone who's been in the game for this long now, that he still hasn't been able to change his personality a little bit and to adjust. You see it in the gameplay too. I'm happy for Luke Shaw as well. I mean, for as much as I could be, I guess, because I'm not really. But
I said almost. I didn't say I did feel sorry for him. I said almost.
He's really been through a hard time with Mourinho, and Pogba getting the captain's armband, I think, took everyone by surprise there. It was a little bit of a shock. But I don't really know who else you would give it to on that team. He was at the club in the youth academy and kind of came through. It's all the whole system. So maybe he just has a general awareness of it, and he played okay. But I still just don't think United looked good at all. And I think Leicester almost dominated the game, and we're unfortunate to not get a result in that one.
Leicester dominated because United just sat back and allowed them to. And so that's where
it doesn't change the fact that they did.
Yeah. Well, it kind of does. If you kind of just say Leicester dominated from the start, I mean, it's not exactly what happened because United got an early goal, right? And so the context is all key here.
Penalty, of course.
Well, yeah.
It's the United way.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I'm in agreement with Christian. I mean, I don't think it's sustainable over the long term, and I don't see how this works out for United again in the long term. And I don't even see it. I have them dropping out of the top 4 this year. There's no way they should, based on the talent on their roster. But I think this is the year where Mourinho, again, just all of his tactics and his antics just wear thin on everybody, and they just sort of have an implosion. Also, like Lukaku, there's no backup for Lukaku up there. I know Rashford could potentially play there, but again, he just doesn't play the same way. And again, Rashford, he's so talented, but he's so oftentimes one-dimensional in just being just attacking focused that he just doesn't play the same way. And so I think he's an incredibly talented player, but I'm worried about depth at center forward for them. So
in saying that, we think that Mourinho and Manchester United might drop out of the top 4. That's a bold prediction, I'd say.
Like I said, coming 5th as well.
5th?
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you're right. But that's putting yourself out there. I like that, though. I hope you guys are both right. I don't think I have the guts to say they're not going to finish top 4, though, just because they just somehow sneak their way into that top 4. Or they'll win, or they'll drop down in the Europa League intentionally and then win it again, so they get Champions League next year. So one last thing, guys, on the Premier League. What was your sleeper match of the week? I thoroughly enjoyed Wolverhampton and Everton yesterday. I thought that was a very entertaining 2-2 match. Ended up usually, as it always does for the Toffees, in utter disappointment. So even being down 10 men, they were able to pull ahead, and they lost the lead at the very end. I got to say, that was besides the Liverpool match, I think that was the match of the week in the Premier League, was the Saturday afternoon game for us here stateside. What did you guys think about? What was your sleeper pick for the game of the week, other than Liverpool?
Christian,
you want me to go? Okay.
Yeah.
Mine absolutely is Crystal Palace versus Fulham. I thought that game was really open. There were a lot of chances in that game, specifically in the first half. And I'm very high on Fulham, and I think Palace are also going to be a good team this year. So I was really looking forward to how they clashed with each other. And Fulham got a little bit knocked back by Palace's first goal. They didn't seem to know what hit them because they were in such control up until that point. They had, I don't know if they ended up with the most passes in the week one, but they were up there as of yesterday. Fulham had the most passes in the Premier League so far this season. I know, big shocker here. Everybody, don't freak out. But they play really entertaining stuff, and I think Crystal Palace did too, specifically in the second half. And Zaha obviously is just a very, very talented player, and Fulham looked good as a team. They just couldn't put the ball into the net, and I thought overall that game was really, really fun to watch.
And Christian, on Fulham, I did not see them. I did not see that match. Did you notice anything from Andre Schürrle in that match?
Not really. He was pretty lame.
Awesome. Par for the course. Just wanted to make sure we're still on Dortmund form. Awesome.
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I actually watched the Everton Wolves match. So that, I'm going to agree with you, Critty. And then the other match that I would have highlighted as the sleeper would have been Palace versus Fulham. Again, I was excited. London Derby. They're both, I think, I have them both finishing, I think, top half of the table this season. No, I don't. I have Fulham 12th, Palace somewhere around there. But I have them not in the relegation fight. I think both teams are going to be good this year. And so I'm happy to hear that it turned out to be pretty good, but I didn't get to see it.
Yeah, awesome.
Cool. So,
actually, I wanted to highlight the very entertaining Southampton versus Burnley match. No, I didn't. It was awful.
All right, Critty, anything else here?
No, I think we're good to go. Awesome.
All right, you're going to hear a little bit more music, listeners, then we will be back with you very soon. Talk to you soon. All right, cool. A little long there.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do we have a podcast name yet? Do you know?
I wrote one down for you. You said something. What a player he is, huh? About Messi.
Oh, yeah.
If you have another suggestion, do you have another suggestion?
It was literally whatever I just said at the end, and I already forget.
The Burnley versus Southampton thing?
It was right after that.
Okay. Well,
whatever I said related to that. And then it was when I messed up the article title. There was something I said in there.
Yeah.
That I was thinking
you guys saw that the Burnley Southampton score in the corner when you were watching Liverpool. I was like, I feel so sorry if anyone's watching that match.
I don't know why anyone would be watching that.
I feel like anyone would have it on the TV, Liverpool on the TV, and they would be watching it elsewhere. But yeah, that game was awful.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm given that we ran a little bit long, I'm going to cut the crew discussion, and then we'll just talk about sporting director. Is that all right?
Speaking of crew, wait, you mean Columbus Crew?
Yeah.
We had the no. We had the best tifo when we played them last year.
Okay. What was it?
It was a big hoagie coming out of the water like Jaws. Okay. And instead of Jaws, it said John. And it had 4 crew players sitting in a boat. It was the greatest.
Okay, so that's
talking about that.
Yeah, that's a little Philly humor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, is it Jaworski you're talking about? Ron Jaworski's Jaws?
No,
Philly?
the shark Jaws, but in Philly. A word is called John, so it's JAWN. It just sort of means
it literally means every single thing.
It means everything. And so if you don't
give me that John, it's just
gotcha.
Okay, what John? What John? This John or that John?
Yeah. And obviously hoagies are pretty big in the area as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it had nothing to do with the crew. That was just Just like
I mean, it was the crew sitting in the boat.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. All right. So whatever, we're cutting the crew. We're just going to talk about sporting directors. And with this, I was thinking like, just again, the union appointed a sporting director, but more just like a general conversation about like sporting directors, do they need to have experience in a specific league? And that's kind of where I want the discussion to go. Does that work?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So I'll keep it short. Welcome back, everyone. It's my segment now, and just wanted to talk about one thing here. The Philadelphia Union hired a sporting director, Ernst Tanner. He is coming from RB Salzburg in Vienna. Now, this discussion, I want to be a little bit more broader than that. He's someone who's coming in with no experience in MLS. More broader. Much more broader. He's coming in with no experience with MLS. And so for someone who's at the top of your sporting organization to have no experience in coming in and sort of leading the soccer operations for your team, how do you guys view that? Critty, let's start with you.
I think that it's a natural progression for sporting directors. You start off, a lot of times it's a former player, so you have experience in as far as how to build a team because you've been a part of a team. How what the identity of a team is, and then you build around that identity. Usually, you start from small, and then you go to you said RB Salzburg is where he came from.
He started at Hoffenheim actually. So he started at Hoffenheim. I think he started at Hoffenheim, went to 1860 Munich, and then I think back to Hoffenheim, and then to Salzburg.
Okay, so typically after RB Salzburg, who had the deep run in the Europa League and has had players such as Naby Keita come from that organization, you would go to the next step up. I would say would be like a upper to mid-tier Bundesliga team. For example, if you're in Austria, it makes sense to go to Germany and possibly take over someone like an RB Leipzig, for example. But I think you have to really know the leagues. It's important that despite the fact that Europe has top five league system, if you will, as far as who's good and who's not. Each one of them has their own unique identity. MLS is completely different. It's an entirely different beast because you have in MLS, you have the draft, you have all these other things that Europe will never have. You don't have promotion relegation, so it's an odd move, but I don't know how familiar he is with the American soccer product, but looking at how the teams are constructed and what their identity is the most important thing. And I think with that, coming from, you said Hoffenheim, and I know RB Salzburg, he can build a team, but that's a unique transition going from I would say a RB Salzburg. I know they were in the qualification rounds for the Champions League. I didn't see what their results were, but they are always a fringe Champions League team every year. To go from that to MLS is quite the jump. So it's going to be unique from just how he constructs how he's able to maneuver with the money and the way that the American soccer product is and how they do business.
Yeah, and Chris Albright, who is the technical director, I think, so he reports into Ernst Tanner. He is supposed to be the guru on all the American mechanisms. But again, it's definitely going to be an adjustment for him. So Christian, your thoughts, again, either on Ernst Tanner with the union or just more specifically just sporting directors?
Well, I'm going to start with Tanner. I think that it's a very, very good signing. I know that he doesn't really have much experience with U.S. soccer, but to be honest, he wouldn't have taken the job if he didn't really think that he could do it. And he must have some type of knowledge going into taking over as the sporting director here. I think with the players that you just see that he's signed for the teams that he's been at, yes, please bring me some of those. Roberto Firmino, Naby Keita, and Mane are all on Liverpool, so obviously I want those types of players. Gylfi Sigurdsson, I mean, unfortunate for him, he has to play for a team in blue on the other side of the city. But whatever. I just see that he signed Russell Canals. I mean, he signed a couple of Americans over there. It's Russell Canals, right?
Yep, Russell Canals,
Fabian Johnson, Danny Williams. He's worked with Americans in the past, bringing them into his teams. So he has some idea about the product of the players that we produce here. He probably doesn't know all the ins and outs of how it's structured, because it doesn't make any sense. If you look anywhere else in the world, it just makes no sense at all. But he'll learn as he goes, and I think he's going to be really good at bringing in top talent. So hopefully that will work out, and we'll see how it progresses, because maybe it'll lead for other European type of sporting directors come in to America.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of Union fans on message boards were worried about his connections are only kind of in Europe, and it seems to be the most effective teams in MLS are getting players from South America, but he's got all kinds of connections in Brazil and Colombia, and I think they highlighted one other South American country as well. Like you said, I mean, he's got the connections with Brazil, with Firmino, and then he's got connections into Africa as well. So again, I don't think it's necessarily a requirement for a person to have experience within a league. I think it's very important to have a structure underneath him that is going to support him. Again, this is speaking just generally again. So sporting directors can kind of come in from anywhere as long as the structure underneath him is stable. And I think Ernie Stewart did a good job of building that with the Union. Additionally, it's very, very important for a sporting director to have connections kind of all over the place. And the more connections and the deeper the connections that person has, the more likely they're going to be successful. So from my perspective, I think he can be successful. And again, just more generally speaking, I think that's what's necessary from a sporting director.
Can he be successful with Jim?
Yeah. So the Union coach so I still like him. I have always struggled with Jim and his lack of flexibility, but again, we're diving into maybe Union fandom here, so just bear with us. But what I never understood if it was Jim and his lack of tactical flexibility, or if it was coming down from the top. And if because Ernie, every time he was interviewed, was 4-2-3-1. That's the formation we're playing, and there's no deviation from that. All of the subs were that, and there was no sort of flexibility. And so I like to see flexibility from a manager. And so we'll see if Ernst Tanner, which he already came out and said, like, he's not as rigid about a formation, he's more rigid about a process. So we'll see. Critty, anything else you wanted to add here?
No, I think you guys said it exactly right, and as good point on the fact that as long as things are stable underneath them, it does come down to a lot of connections. It comes down to where you've been, who you know, and I'll take, for example, Michael Zorc with Dortmund. Dortmund plays a certain style of football, and if you are going to be the sporting director there, you have to obviously look for the personnel, sign the personnel that kind of complement that style of football. Now, they started, if you go back to the Klopp years at Dortmund, that team was built around that style of play. Tuchel sort of did that when Bosch came in, and especially Peter Stöger. It didn't work because those players were completely out of it was a total 180 on how he wanted to play, and that's why Dortmund struggled to the finish line. So I feel like as long as you have, like you said, stability underneath you, and you can identify the right players to fit that particular club system, as long as you have a good, then it comes down to the managerial staff to train them up.
Christian, anything else you want to add here?
Nope, I think you guys covered it.
All right, cool. Before we get to our listener questions, wanted to give a couple quick plugs for a couple projects I'm working on. So I'm the founder of a simplified fantasy soccer website, FanFutsal, FanFutsal.com. We have you select 5 teams instead of 8 to 11 individual players. We simplified the scoring and all of that, so it's really easy to follow and set teams. In addition to that, we still allow you to have variety and strategy by having formations and positions. And we have games and contests and tournaments from all 5 major European leagues. As the other leagues start up, we're going to have them on there, and we have the 2 major North American leagues. Critty, I think, is going to be helping us out. He's going to be a fan futsal expert for the Bundesliga, maybe Serie A, or something like that. So Christian's an expert in all the leagues. So we appreciate that. Again, check it out, FanFutsal.com. Additionally, check out the Soccer Tavern YouTube channel, where I have videos about the history, culture, and philosophy of the beautiful game. All kinds of videos on there. Premier League history videos for all 20 clubs and the 3 clubs that were in last year that were relegated. Terminology videos, why is it called a nutmeg, pitch, all of that stuff. We had World Cup videos, the history of soccer, history of formations and position numbers and all that. So please go check out the Soccer Tavern on YouTube. We have it linked in the video description. Listener questions this week. First one is from @Glenn Lawrence. He said his question's for Critty. How many points does Bayern win the league by? You kind of alluded to this earlier, but what do you think?
Bayern's going to win the league by 7 points this year. I think that they are going to. They're not going to have the efficiency in the runaway this season as they had in the past. Again, Dortmund did a lot of great things. It's going to remain to be seen whether that plays out over 34 match days. They were pretty good in the transfer market. They didn't sign a center forward as of yet, but if they get that one final piece, I think that they could. I don't want to say challenge Bayern, but they will not be behind by 15, 16 points like they were last season. And I think that I think you'll see a tighter race. I don't think Bayern will ever be in danger of falling behind. Let me put it like that. I think that you could see maybe 3, 4, 5 point lead in the first half of the season, so in the Hinrunde, and Bayern just puts it on autopilot in the Rückrunde. That's what they do. And I don't think that unless Dortmund pressure them, meaning, for example, Dortmund take 2 matches against Bayern, they take all 6 points, they get to within 1 or 2. That's kind of what happened with Tuchel at the end of the 2015-16 season. They had a chance to cut the lead to 2 points on Pep Guardiola's Bayern. Bayern casually got the draw. They stayed ahead by 5, and they just rode out the rest of the season. And I think that they'll keep Dortmund at an arm's length, and that goes for Schalke as well. Schalke, Hoffenheim, RB Leipzig. I think there's going to be a very competitive race between 2 and 6 in the Bundesliga, but Bayern will not run away with the league, but they will win comfortably by 6, 7 points.
Christian, any thoughts?
I still think they're double-digit away. I just think they're too powerful right now.
Okay. I have them coming back as well. I think it's going to be single digits, and I'm hoping it's even less than 7 points. So, new manager, again, they're not getting any younger, Bayern. And so, I'm hopeful that some of these other teams can sort of take the next step, but we'll see.
Hoping.
Yeah. A couple quick questions here from Christopher Kerr at Kerc17. First one, pros and cons of Emerson Hyndman's second loan stint in Scotland. Christian, thoughts there? Emerson Hyndman? No. Okay, no thoughts.
I remember when he was at Fulham.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. He just needs to get playing time at this point in his career, and so hopefully he can get playing time. But it's not looking good for him, maybe breaking through in the Premier League. So he's got to get playing time. Critty, I don't know if you have any thoughts on Hyndman.
No, ditto on what Christian said.
Okay. What would be a good benchmark for Christian Pulisic goals and assists this year? Critty?
Christian Pulisic this season, goals and assists. Well, if he's not a Liverpool fan by the winter transfer window, I think this season, if he got 10 goals and 5 to 7 assists, that would be a fantastic year. I think he would be probably rated at over 100 million at that point by the end of this year. And someone in the summer, at the very latest, if it doesn't happen in the winter, they will swap him up from Dortmund.
Christian, thoughts?
I think he's going to get double digits of both. Okay. I think he's going to have double digits goals and assists this year, and his value is going to skyrocket. Yep. Unfortunately, he'll have 1 year left on his deal, so his actual value that he's going to go for is going to be less. Hello, person in the background.
Maybe. Yes. So I'm in agreement. So I think a good benchmark, again, I think he will get double digits in both, but again, a good benchmark would be maybe 15 goals contributed, whether that's, 5 goals, 10 assists or whatnot. So again, going with that, but yeah, you saw how confident he was in the preseason, taking the ball off Mario Götze and hitting the penalty, all of that. And so hopefully we see more of that, and he just needs to get more lethal in front of goal for Dortmund.
2 things I want to add to Pulisic. One is the fact that he did not have the best season last year, and look at his value going into this season. And 2, I know it was a preseason game, but look at what he did the last 30 minutes against Liverpool and Charlotte. He took over that game. That's the Christian Pulisic. If we start to see that on a consistent basis, he's going to be one of the most expensive transfers in history.
Yep, I'd agree with that. I believe he's a Fulham fan because he says Fulham a legit shot or a little more than confident banter for winning the Premier League. I think we're fans of Fulham. I think he's just and we're already documented on how big of fans Christian and I are of Fulham. Critty, any quick thoughts on Fulham? How they're going to do this season?
Any team that has Andre Schürrle.
You broke up a little bit there.
I said any club that has Andre Schürrle on their roster isn't winning anything.
All right, nice. Last question from, again, Christopher. He had a bunch here. Ethan Horvath, his do or die season. Ethan Horvath was goalkeeper for the U.S. national team. He made a kind of a terrible blunder in one of our matches, and really we haven't seen him again at the national team level. I think he lost his starting spot at club level. I want to say he was with Mold, but I could be wrong about that. Christian, any thoughts on Horvath and,
I just don't think that there's a real shot for him to come back. I mean, that was a bad mistake, but I mean, it happens all the time. Goalkeepers do make mistakes, Karius. I just think we have Zach Steffen now, who's coming in. So he's not really going to come in and be the U.S. goalkeeper ever again.
Okay, there you have it. Wow. Critty, any thoughts on Ethan Horvath?
Well, he's at Club Brugge, right, in Belgium?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. He's in just what Christian said. He's in a kind of a similar situation with Karius. It's hard once the confidence in you is lost to regain that back. And I think that Klopp, for example, likes Karius as a guy, as a person, as a lad, but I don't think he's got any confidence or faith in him coming in and being a real solution to keeper. And this, I guess, Horvath kind of falls into that same category. Once you lose trust or people lose trust in you, then it's really hard. It's harder to get the opportunity to reverse that than anything else. You got to get back on the pitch and actually show. And that's what Karius, for example, did at Tranmere, and it backfired. It made it even worse. So yeah, he's got an uphill battle to say the least. But if I was a betting man, I would say he's done.
Yeah, so I think we're in agreement. It's probably a do or die season for him, and it needs to be due. Otherwise, he may have a successful career. It's just not going to be at the U.S. men's national team level or anything like that. So that's kind of where we fall down. Christian, you want to recap our trivia question, and we'll give our guesses?
Yeah, it's opening weekend for the Premier League, everybody. So trivia question was, which team has lost the most opening matches in Premier League history? That is only Premier League era. Just so everyone's aware.
92, 93, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Critty, do you want to give your guess? You want me to go first?
So my thought is you have to have been in the Premier League for a long time.
Oh yeah, and give me the number too. How much you thought they lost? How many? Yeah. Just
go ahead. I'm going to think on this for.
Okay, I'm going to say Everton, and I'm going to say 9 because I feel like Everton's been in the league for the entire Premier League's history. And they're a pretty good side, but that's what I'm going to say. 9 seems high, actually, now that I say it out loud. I'm going to say 7.
I'm going to say West Ham United, and I'm going to say West Ham United with 10.
Wow. West Ham was correct.
Oh.
Whoa, was it really?
And it is 12.
Whoa, wow. I thought I was high on 9. Okay. Yeah. All right. Is that including this year?
That is including this year. My actual stat says 11, but I added that 1.
That's good. Very, very smart of you. All right.
Pretty damn good guess.
Yeah, that was fantastic, Critty. All right, going out on a high note here. Listeners, thanks for tuning in. Critty, can you remind people where to find you?
Oh, yeah. They can find me at Critty Smith. They can also find the Kings of Europe at KINGSOFEUR. That's at Kings of Europe on Twitter. That's the podcast there. And other than that, that's fansided.com.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will have all that linked in our video description and podcast show notes. So definitely go give him a follow and interact with him. He's doing some awesome work there. Critty, we thank you so much for being here. And listeners, thank you for being here. If you're feeling kind, leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you listen to us on. We would greatly appreciate that. And our contact info, if you want to follow us on Twitter, our Twitter handle is at BTSoccerPod. It's mainly Christian and I tweeting from there. Matt is not incredibly involved on Twitter or really on this podcast. At all. If you want to email us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. And please check out our website, brostalkingsoccerpodcast.com. You can read about us, check out past episodes. And if you want to support the show, no additional cost to you or anything like that. If you're buying anything on Amazon, go onto the website, click onto the store, and just click the link to Amazon from our website. Whatever you end up buying, no additional cost. We get a small percentage back of that, and it helps support the show and all of that. So we would greatly appreciate it. Critty, thanks again, man.
Hey, brothers, thank you very much for having me. It's been a blast.
All right. Christian, thank you for being here.
David, just thank you for everything that you do.
All right. Listeners, thank you so much for being here, and we will talk to you soon. See you, everybody. All right, people of YouTube, see you. We're getting out of here. Stopping the broadcast. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.